There are so many different ways to control sibilance in a vocal, whether it's for an audiobook, voiceover, or music production. But the method I'm going to show you today is a little unorthodox. What's up, my friend? Welcome back to the Home Audio Project, the place to help narrators and voiceover artists edit and master their audio and break into the business. I'm audiobook engineer Ryan May. De-essing is a powerful tool inside most DAWs. I say most because there's actually been some that I've worked in that don't have a stock de-essing plugin. What is de-essing? De-essing controls the amount of sibilants or S sounds that are in your vocal recording. And one would think that you could simply pull up a de-esser plugin, pull down the threshold, and you're good to go, right? You could do that, but if you don't have some ear training, you could be altering too much of your voice and reducing too many frequencies around your main sibilant area. Now, the method I'm going to show you today is what I call the one-band de-esser. But before we jump into that, I want to mention that de-essing is usually the last step in my processing chain for narration voiceover work. Now, my first step is usually EQ to clean up and set up the stage for the rest of the vocal performance. So I want to give you my narration EQ guide to help you walk through each step of my process for getting your voice to do all of the heavy lifting before you fine-tune your voice with a de-esser. So head to thehomeaudioproject.com/EQ and pick it up to get started. Okay, so let's jump into yet another audiobook session and use the one-band EQ de-essing approach. All right, now that we're jumping in here, I'm going to show you that method using what I call a single-band de-ess. So what I like to do is zoom in a little bit so we can get a little bit more clarity on our visual. Find a spot that has a decent amount of sibilance.
He was something of a politician and had always taken a prominent part in the local elections.
So this first half is pretty sibilant.
He was something of a politician.
Something of a politician. So yeah, those frequencies tend to pop out a decent amount. So here's the approach I take. I'd like to preface this as well that I do already have some preliminary processing on here. And I want to note that I like to put the de-esser last. The main reason I like to put my de-esser last is because when I go through all of my processing, compression, EQ, gating, everything that is going to enhance a vocal and bring it up to audiobook narration specs, usually the limiter is last. It brings up the volume, it brings it up to proper RMS values and peak values, but what else does it do? It brings up all the frequencies, right? To get the volume as loud as it can based on the requirements you need it to be. But in that, it also brings up all of the negative frequencies that you don't necessarily want to bring up and can be unpleasant to the ear. So I've found in my experience that putting the de-esser last controls all of the sibilance that is in a given voice. So here's my approach. Pro Tools has a menu called Audio Suite. Audio Suite is just simply where you can use any of the plugins that are in your insert chain, and it utilizes them so you can print all of the effects to your audio track. But I'm going to do a different approach here. I don't print any of the effects onto the track by using these Audio Suite plugins. I actually use it as a loop mode to find and help my processing. I'll show you and explain. So we found our sibilance area. I'll play it again.
He was something of a politician.
Now what I'm going to do is zoom in. Once you get familiar with audio enough, you'll know that this is an S. Okay? So what I like to do, I like to crank them up and narrow out the Q. Then I'll use this preview processing button, which basically puts it into loop mode. And this is where it gets very annoying. You use this to sweep around and find the frequency that hits your ear the worst. And then we will put it into context with the rest of the vocal and see what really pops out. So I'm noticing as I sweep through the 7K area, the S sibilance frequency stays very consistent no matter which way I sweep it. Granted, when you raise up anything like this and it's on loop back, especially a short playback like this, everything's going to stick out. But what I mean is the S frequency sound doesn't change that much. The frequency 7,300, if your ears are trained well enough, you'll be able to hear that 7,300 frequency popping out any way that this dial gets turned. So let's put it back to that 7,300 hertz. And now let's listen in context with the rest of his vocal.
He was something of a politician. 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 He was something of a politician.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with this. So now that I found my frequency, we'll use our plugin inside of our inserts or our plugin chain to set this de-esser to exactly this frequency that gives us the most harshness within this vocal. Now, your vocal may be a little different. You'll have to sweep around and play with the plugins that you have to find your specific sibilant frequency area. Now, the Waves de-esser plugin has two modes. You have split and you have wide. The difference is wideband means that when the de-esser turns down the vocal, it also turns down all the frequencies equally. It'll turn down the low end, mid-range, and high end. And sometimes you'll want to use that. But what I'm going to use in this example is split band. What split band does is the de-esser will only turn down a narrow band of frequencies, which is usually the area of where the sibilance appears. I'm going to use my threshold to find how much attenuation I want to give this sibilance. And then you'll see the attenuation meter here and how much you're going to reduce it by. Now, again, having proper ear training will help you with this. So if you attenuate too much or reduce too much, you'll get the opposite effect. You'll get what sounds like a lisp. I'll give you an example here.
He was something of a politician. He was something of a politician. He was something of a politician. He was something of a politician.
So clearly the S's are getting reduced, but it's also altering the other frequencies around his voice. So we'll use our frequency range here to find the EQ that we found within our single band EQ plugin, which is at 7,300 hertz. So we'll go up to 7,300. We'll keep it in split mode. We'll use audio, and that will play us the whole thing.
He was something of a politician. He was something of a politician. He was something of a
We'll use the threshold to reduce down the sibilance enough to where his voice sounds very natural and intact, but reduces all of the frequencies in his sibilance range that we want to reduce.
He was something of a politician. 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 He was something of a politician.
So that sounds pretty comfortable to me. What I'm going to do, just to show you an example here, I'm going to bypass this plugin. I'll play it again in loop mode and then turn it on, and hopefully you'll hear how we're taking away the harshness of the vocal with his sibilance range, but we're keeping the vocal quality intact even after we have our limiter on it.
He was something of a politician. 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 He was something of a politician.
So, as you saw, I readjusted my threshold because I felt like I was cutting a little too much off and it was altering the frequencies of his voice. So that's what I mean. You play with it a little bit, really train your ears to find that sibilance, and honing in on where your threshold lies and where your frequency lies, you'll get a great end product. All right, there you go. The one-band EQ de-essing method. A little unorthodox? Yes. Does it take some ear training? Yes. But can it help you get a great end result? Yes. But what's the first step you can take to laying down a perfect foundation of your voice? EQ. So download my narration EQ guide. And a little Easter egg, when you download it, you'll have a chance to get your hands on a live EQ training I did called the VoiceOver EQ Formula. It literally walks you through my exact process I take when EQing a voiceover or an audiobook narration. So pick up the guide now at thehomeaudioproject.com/EQ, and you'll also have a chance to grab that live EQ workshop as well. Okay, that's it for now, my friend. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you in another episode real soon.